Here's a number that should terrify every accounting leader watching, listening to this. 70% of top performers at traditional accounting firms say that they would jump ship to a private equity backed competitor right now if given the chance. And here's what might be even more shocking. It's not about the money. PE firms have discovered something about attracting and keeping talent that traditional firms have missed for decades. Today, I'm going to reveal exactly what this is and how smart leaders are using it to build powerhouse teams. And I've said on previous episodes of this show, private equity is probably changing the game more than AI. If you look at the big disruptors over the years, technology, yes, we moved from paper to Excel spreadsheets, we moved into the cloud, we moved into artificial intelligence and automation, and it does change the game. So do compliance changes, regulatory changes. They change the behavior of accountants. They change the way firms operate. But my contention is that private equity is so ingrained into the accounting profession now, there is no turning back. And not just the accounting firms themselves, but the tech companies, the software providers that serve accounting firms, most of them have PE involvement now. There's so much M&A activity, there's so much venture capital, there's such a lot going on. It's shaking up how firms are run. In a previous episode, I talked about accountants winning or losing the private equity game and what leaders need to do to step up, to embrace what private equity is looking for in accounting firm leadership. And many are going to fall by the wayside. So in this particular episode, we're talking about talent. And I'm going to post this on two shows. We have an accounting influencers podcast and we have an accounting talent podcast, both with slightly different audiences. But today I'm going to reveal to you what talent is doing in the midst of the onslaught from private equity. So welcome to the show. I am Rob Brown. If you are a leader looking to build your authority and strategic importance in accounting, you've come to the right place. If you have any kind of responsibility for growing teams, growing service lines, having more of a voice in what is going on, both the accounting influencers and the accounting talent podcast is good for you. So it's a joint episode, and here we go. We're talking about something here that's creating, I wouldn't say sleepless nights, that would be very emotive, but it's certainly creating a lot of restlessness for accounting leaders. And we're all leaders basically, aren't we? We're all managers, bosses, partners, would-be partners. So we're all experiencing this. The talent game in accounting is fundamentally changing. The old model of recruiting people right out of college, working them hard for a few years, promising them eventual partnership, that business model is redundant. People aren't buying into that anymore. Since 2021, the number of people taking accounting degrees and qualifications has gone down. We talked a lot about the brand of accounting and why we need to tell better stories to attract the right kind of people in. But even those people in, I'm working with a top 50 firm at the moment, just coaching a few of their people on business development and that skill set. And one of the would-be partners has told me the sheer amount of disruption that is going on in the firm because of private equity involvement. So we're talking about something that is hitting a lot of people. Private equity-backed firms are offering something different to the traditional legacy models, and they're winning. So here's a stat for you. Private equity-backed accounting firms are reporting 40% lower turnover rates than traditional firms. So what's behind that? Turnover rates, staff churn. They're filling senior positions in weeks rather than months. They're attracting talent from the big four and the regional firms. There's been a lot of redundancies from the big four as they overhired in COVID periods. It's happening at unprecedented rates. And this isn't just about throwing money at the problem. It's about completely reimagining how accounting firms work. So PE-backed firms are growing teams 3 times faster than traditional firms. But here's what's really interesting. They're not just hiring more people. They're creating new types of roles, new career paths that didn't exist before. And they're giving young talent opportunities that would have taken decades to achieve in traditional firms. I'll give you a little story that illustrates this. But you can imagine, and I've talked about this, this was on episode, I'm just looking at my list right here. This was on episode 96 of this show, private equities take over the need to know for accountants. And we talked there a lot more context about how private equity is changing the game. But listen to this. As a senior manager at a traditional firm recently said to me, I was going to leave accounting altogether. Then a private equity backed firm offered me not just a better title and more money, but the chance to build and lead a whole new advisory practice. Now, this is a youngish manager. We're talking, how old would they be? Mid-30s? Senior manager at a traditional firm. Private equity came in and offered that manager a huge opportunity. Now, I've done in a previous episode the leadership shakeup in private equity, accounting winners and losers, in that there's a new kind of leader being born. Accounting firms that have private equity in them, the people that are being pushed up there and promoted are the ones not that have been there the longest or that have the best technical skill set, but the ones that are most progressive and adapted to change and willing to take on new projects. So this senior manager said, I was going to leave accounting altogether. Then a firm offered me not just a better title or more money, but the chance to build and lead a whole new service line. So they gave me the resources and the authority to make it happen. In 6 months, I've done more interesting work than in my previous 6 years. When your talent start seeing that happening, and they're talking to their friends, if you're in an independent firm or you've resisted the lure of private equity, it's not saying it's inevitable, but you've got to work really hard to match the resources of private equity. I've done more interesting work in the last 6 months than in my previous 6 years. That's now a reality in accounting. If the new PE-backed firms are competing on this level, then they're understanding something profound. Today's professionals don't just want a job. They want to create an impact. They want opportunity. They want resources. They want fresh new projects. They want to be builders, not just maintainers. They want to be minders and not just grinders and finders. So it's what makes this critical for you as an accounting member to see that PE isn't just changing compensation models. It's not just changing billable hours and things like that. It's transforming the entire talent value proposition. You'll have heard of new positions like innovation lead, digital transformation specialist, client success director, chief revenue officer, and heads of all kinds of new service lines. Cybersecurity head, crypto head, advisory lead. They're all coming out now. And these roles come with, they're not just job titles, they're real authority, real resources from day one. And the people that are building and leading this, they have an opportunity to shape the way that the firm is going. And it's coming to people that have influence, that have authority, that have credibility, that have a skill set that can compete and stay relevant in today's world. So if you're being offered roles that you wouldn't ordinarily have got without a whole load of money coming in from, say, a private equity source, then that's going to be attractive to you, isn't it? It's going to influence your decisions to stay with the firm and the way you talk about the firm as a brand ambassador, as an advocate for that firm. And these opportunities attract the kind of ambitious, forward-thinking talent that traditional firms desperately need and are competing for. But if a talent person, if talent has the opportunity to choose from two different firms, and one is PE-backed and one isn't, then they might do things differently, don't you think? So PE-backed firms are doing a few things differently. First, as I've hinted, they're reimagining compensation. They're shaking things up. It's not just about higher salaries, although they can generally offer a little bit more. They're now offering equity participation. You'll have heard of this. It's been in the news. They're offering bonuses based on performances. They're offering ownership. They're offering clear paths to wealth creation. They're just showing a whole new way forward. One PE-backed firm recently introduced a program where even junior staff can earn equity stakes based on performance, and that's unheard of in traditional firms. And are accountants driven by performance? Yes, we've all got targets these days. We've all got numbers to hit. We've all got to make plan. We've all got to bring in the business. We've all got to amplify the value. So performance-based bonuses and performance-based renews are not new in accounting firms, but private equity is raising the stakes on that. So that's the first thing. We've got to understand that private equity is redesigning comp structures. The second thing is that they're accelerating career paths and advancement. How fast can you get there? It used to be time served, didn't it? Rigid time-based promotion schedules. Who's been here the longest? Let's promote them up. Dinosaur shoes. When one becomes extinct, another one could come in. PE firms are promoting based on impact and potential, not just years served. So they're creating new leadership roles, giving high performers the chance to step up quickly. Third, they're investing heavily in development. They're spending 3 to 4 times more per person on training and development than traditional firms, but not just technical skills. We've got an episode coming up. I'm just looking at the title here, The Digital Divide in Accounting Firm Leadership. I'm going to be speaking there on what is dividing the old breed of leaders from the new breed of leaders. So this is going to be a lot more than coaching and focusing on technical skills. That's a given. That gets you in the game. We're talking here about skills like business development, business acumen, commercial awareness, leadership capabilities, advisory skills, handling change management, change projects, driving innovation, thinking up new ways of doing things, being adaptable and agile, having a growth mindset. You might call these soft skills, you might call these leadership skills, you might call these non-technical skills, whatever you call them, they are increasingly required in today's modern accounting professionals, and they are increasingly expected and increasingly invested in by firms that have private equity backing or some kind of war chest, HR leadership, L&D leadership that is driving, let's invest in these new skills. That's the third thing, is focusing beyond the technical. Fourth thing we're seeing with the private equity influence is building what I've heard called career ecosystems. Now, this was new to me, but it made sense when I saw it. These are integrated approaches to talent development that combine various things. This is hence the ecosystem. It has traditionally been L&D, but career advancement, career opportunities. So you're combining challenging, interesting work. This is what talent are looking for. They don't want grunt work. They don't want automation work. They want interesting work. So the ecosystem, the value proposition for talent combines challenging work, continuous learning with the right kind of skills, the right kind of coaching, mentoring, training, whatever it is, beyond the technical, and clear advancement opportunities. How can I get to where I want to be? What do I need to do to get there? What is the time scale? Clear advancement opportunities and a certain amount of autonomy and flexibility for people as well in having their hands on the steering wheel of their own career. You can only do that with resource. Every vision needs provision. Every vision needs provision. If you've got a vision to really grow your firm and advance the possibilities for your people, then you've got to put some money behind that. You've got to put some expertise behind that. You've got to put some intention behind that. So these career ecosystems are something that traditional firms have not done. They may talk about them, but PE-backed firms seem to be putting the funding behind this, the weight behind it, and implementing them. Bringing it to the top of the show now, what does this mean for you as a leader? I've identified 5 critical strategies that you might need to implement now to stay ahead of this, to get on the wave, on your surfboard, and not let the wave leave you behind. First, reimagine your talent proposition. Stop looking at the traditional path to partnership and start selling opportunity, impact, accelerated growth. If you're selling people the old ways of doing things, serve your time, hit your targets, do what you need to do, and at some point you will be made partner. That's not a narrative that people want to buy into. So stop selling the traditional path to partnership. People are seeing new ways of doing things. If it's not in your firm, they're hearing it from their friends in other firms. So Show talented people how they can make a difference quickly in your firm and give them access to a route for that. Which brings us on to number 2, strategy for you is to create new career paths. So don't force everyone into the traditional partner track. Lots of people don't want partner, but there are rewards in specialist roles, project leadership positions, innovation opportunities, new service lines, and let people build careers around their strengths and interests. Number 3, invest in development that matters. Now, what matters to people? They want to acquire new skills that drive value. So how are you helping them develop their advisory capabilities, their fluency, agility with technology, their leadership capabilities, their change management capabilities, and making learning a core part of your culture around these areas that are non-technical. This is not just a box to check. This is a mandatory offering for your talent. Next thing you can do, number 4, is build authentic flexibility. What do we mean by this? Private equity, they're not just offering remote work. They're creating truly flexible career models. So project-based work, portfolio careers, customized advancement paths, hybrid working models that are just a new way of thinking. The pandemic has taught us many things, but one of them is it's all very well having people in the office, and I understand why you would want to do that. But if you're looking at project-based work and portfolio careers, customized advancement paths, bespoke, then you need a huge amount of flexibility. And to do that, you need processes, you need culture, you need technology, you need the right kind of leadership that are modeling that. And that's what you're competing with. So you're a part of this and you're driving this. Number 5, fifth strategy here is to get serious about your comp structures and your business models, your equity, your incentives. And if you can't offer traditional equity, and I appreciate that, you've got a lot of partners wrapped up in the equity pot. That's the retirement options, isn't it? If you can't offer that, then you've got to create other ways for people to participate in the firm's future, the firm's success, to get a slice of the action. This thing's called phantom equity. Take a look at that. Performance units, other creative comp structures. There's some really innovative firms out there that are giving their people a say in how the firm grows and some skin in the game for the value that's created by their contribution. So who'd have thought phantom equity was something? Performance units. I'm not going to go into them in detail in this show, but you can look them up and talk to people about them. Remember, as a leader, you're not just competing for talent. You are building the firm's future. And you're having a say in that. We talk a lot in this show about having a voice in your firm, having a say in the direction of travel. You need influence, you need authority, your credibility. So I'm speaking to you as a leader here. If you can embrace some of the concepts here in this show, don't just react to things. You've got to be proactive and get ahead of these. You're building the future of your firm. And to do that, when I say your firm, you've got some ownership in it, you've got some influence, you've got a say in it. If you're just an employee in the rank and file lower down the career ladder, you might not feel like you're building your firm. You're building the firm for somebody else. And if that is the case, then you might be vulnerable to an offer elsewhere, maybe from a PE-backed firm if you aren't there currently. So your ability to attract and retain top performers is going to define you as a leader. It's going to define whether your firm thrives or struggles in the year ahead. So if I was going to give you any kind of action plan for the next 90 days, audit your talent proposition. If you have any kind of team or leadership role, then you've got to keep the people coming in. How does your talent prop compare to PE-backed offerings? You've got to be You've got to be brutally honest about where you're falling short in your employee value proposition or your employer brand. We talk a lot on the Accounting Talent podcast about that. Second is to identify your flight risks. You want to build teams where people don't leave. You've got to look at your high performers and see who might be vulnerable to private equity-backed competitors and firms that are giving them more opportunity. There's less loyalty than there used to be. You've got to have a really strong culture and brand and identity and future and story that people are buying into. Otherwise, why would they stay? Why would they resist the temptation to go somewhere else. Remember, they're talking to their friends. They know what's out there. They're on LinkedIn. So you've got to create individual retention plans for each person. People want different things. We can't treat them all the same. So identify your flight risks and create a plan to keep them. You've got to have conversations with them. The third thing I would recommend you do is to reshape your development program. Look at how you're bringing these people on and move beyond the technical training to build L&D programs and skill upgrades that your firm needs for the future. And if there's a fourth, I'd say rethink your comp structure. It takes a lot of doing, but how can you create more compelling short-term and long-term incentives? That's it for today's episode. Remember, the talent war isn't just about survival. It's about you as a leader, an owner, a founder, if you are, building the kind of firm that naturally attracts and retains the best people. If you are not in an ownership role, then it's about you maintaining or building a voice, building authority, building your influence, growing your personal brand, and acquiring the skills and leadership capabilities that are going to make you attractive to private equity-backed firms. I don't think it's going away. I don't know what their exit strategy is going to be, these private equity-backed firms, but for the next 5-10 years or so, it is changing the game. So you've got to know what's going on. This is how we inform you in this firm, to know what's going on and to take steps right now so that you're not caught by surprise with your pants down, as the phrase goes. And just to shout out too, thank you for listening to the podcast, watching it, wherever you are, whatever you're doing. We're here to help you build your influence and authority in the accounting profession and get a handle on the talent, the technology. I'm working with 12 people in the next 12 months or so to help them build strong personal brands, tell better stories, build their influence, their authority. And I'm doing that by interviewing them every month and curating their passions, their insights, their opinions, their thoughts, their direction, their dreams, their goals, turning those into thought leadership pieces, turning them into video snippets, turning them into personal branding insights, and giving them back to them and their marketing department to put out there and build their personal brand, just tell better stories. If you want to talk about that with me and want to be one of those 12, then reach out to me on LinkedIn. We can have a conversation. We've got a few people involved already that some of them are a couple of firm owners and a couple are partners. One is below partner level that just wants to grow their personal brand, and creating thought leadership is hard, isn't it? So we've got a way to do it without the heavy lifting, and it's just been interviewed by me. So that's cool. We're coming up to the end of the show. Thank you for joining in. Keep your influence going. Don't have a reputation that's built by default. Be really intentional with it. Adapt some of the interesting and usable practical strategies we've given you in this show. You will be more influential tomorrow than you were today if you take some action. Have a great day.